Hello everyone, this is Mike and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at the next part of my Build a Script series. So this will be episode 6, and we're looking at a way to query a remote computer and find the mapped drives that are configured on it. So again, the scenario here is, let's say you're wanting to do an audit or you're wanting to help users who might be calling up, maybe not able to access certain shares in the network, and you just like to know what drive mappings they have. Right? So what we want to do is we want to be able to find drive mappings for all users with a profile on a computer. We're going to use the repository to find those profiles. So I could use WMI or SIM to do the queries for that. We can load the registry hives that are needed to find the drive mappings because they live in keys in the registry, and we can output an object for each drive mapping for each user. So we're going to treat the script I'm going to build like a commandlet, as in like a get commandlet, I guess I should say, in that it outputs objects to PowerShell's pipeline. So ideally, I want an object for each drive mapping for each user. So if a user has 5 drive mappings, I'll have 5 objects being output. All right, so that's kind of the goal of what's going on here. So now to figure out how we're going to grab this, I mean, the script itself is not going to be that complex. We're going to kind of run through, probably a computer name parameter, grab a bunch of usernames, use those usernames to find the profiles, and enumerate kind of through all the drive mappings for each of the users. Right? So nothing really too complex there. Based on, if you've watched my previous episodes and Build a Script series, should be familiar with at least those concepts, let's say. So where kind of the difficulty lies in this is how to actually go about getting the drive mapping information. So in the past, kind of this video is inspired by a student's question from years ago. I remember I was teaching a New Horizons, teaching a Windows Server class at the New Horizons facility in Orlando. And a student had asked, hey, I'd like to be able to get this information. And at the time, we were talking about using WMI and SIM in the repository. And there is something there that you could query. So there is a class that we could potentially go after if we wanted to, right? But it does have some, how shall we say, um, it does have some downsides, right? So one of those downsides being that if you want to query for this information through WMI, there's a bit of hoops you have to walk through. Um, so either using WMI and SIM, basically hitting that repository. And the kind of hoops you have to walk through are kind of a bit much. So number one, you would have to, the user who you wanted to find the drive mappings for would actually have to be logged in. And so that doesn't necessarily fit, let's say, every scenario that's out there. Um, so another thing, the user themselves would have to have admin rights, which again, that may not happen in most scenarios either. Um, and the third, it kind of used some WMI calls here where we're, like where we're loading a WMI class and things like that. So it wasn't ideal for the scenario. And, like I had figured it out, I could do it, but again, it kind of had those caveats to it. So, I don't know. I don't know if it's like refusing to give up on something or whatever. But every now and again, I would, kind of just Google out to see if anybody else had figured out something new to be able to do this and whatnot, because it seemed like an interesting concept, something that might be handy to administration. And it wasn't until recently that I kind of found a bunch of other non-related things that allowed me to kind of achieve this, if you will. All right. So that's kind of what I'm going to walk through here. So I'm let me switch over to one of my lab computers here. So this is looking at a Windows 10 client. I don't remember the exact build of it at the moment. Let me just go get that for y'all. Um, so we're looking at, where the heck is it? Build 21H2, right? And this is Windows 10 Enterprise, right? So that's kind of the OS that we're on here, and I'm logged in as a user called admin. So my Active Directory domain is chassis TAC, and I'm logged in as a user called admin, right? And I also have a few drives mapped here. So I at least have this Z drive mapped here, which is going out to DC1, which is my other computer in this lab environment, and I'm configured to a drive called map1. So let's say though, if I wanted to create another one, I have this net log on that I just deleted, so eventually that'll remove out of here, but let's not count that one. So let me go map another drive here. Um, maybe M drive, M for Mike, and DC1, and I believe I have a data as well. So let's see, do I? Yep, I do. All right, cool. So I've got a few drive mappings. Now, where can you discover those drive mappings? So ultimately, if I open up our good friend regedit, and I go ahead and I explore in here, we can find drive mappings for the user who's currently logged in. If I go into HKey current user, go down to, oh, let's see, where the heck am I going here? Um, Man, I'm drawing a blank at the moment. Um, Network, yeah, okay. So HKey current user, network. And then I can see the drive maps that are there. Right? So if I look, I have an M drive and I have a Z drive. So the registry keys are going to be the drive letters. And then all of these individual item properties here describe what's happening to it. Okay, so for instance, if I look here, I could see the remote path right here. I could see DC1 map 1. So that's your UNC path there. And if I go to M drive, again, the remote path, I could see DC1 backslash data. All right. So that gets me the drive mapping. So I would need to look at each user's H key current user or H key user hive, if you will, right? Which lives in their profile. Um, so that would be hanging out at wherever their user profile is. So if I go to like C colon users, find whatever user here. So in this case, I'm admin. And then in here, if you kind of turned on the viewing of all the good stuff, right? So let's show hidden in system files. Let's not hide protected operating system files. And basically what you're looking for in the profile is the user's registry hive right here, ntuser.dat. So what I would need to do is basically load that for each user who's got a profile on this computer and search underneath the network key to see if there's any keys underneath that. Any keys underneath that would be whatever the map drives are. Right? So that's kind of where we're heading here. Now, so the first part is I need the users who have profiles on here. Okay, so I can use either WMI or SIM to get that by looking at the repository. Now, why I'm choosing to use WMI or SIM is because ultimately I have a script that's going to be running remotely. So I'm just showing everyone how to do things locally here, but understand I'm eventually going to be doing all this remote. Right? So I'm going to use so if I use, for instance, like get WMI object, and again I just have a PowerShell session open here. So get sim instant or get WMI object. The class I want to use. I'm waiting for tab complete to finish its magic here. Come on. And that doesn't want to tap. Okay, well, Okay, so got something going on with my new version of PowerShell here in this lab environment. Let me close PowerShell 7 here. And let me go back and load Windows PowerShell, which is version 5.1, and let's do the same thing. Get WMI object, class, Win32, Win32, what the heck was the key that I was looking for? User profile. Okay. And that will load all of the profiles that are present on this computer. So for instance here, if I just kind of like scroll up to the top of the output, fair amount here, we could see things like the local path. So this would be where it's hanging out at, and that would also tell me who the user is. So this is from a user called user1. And then I could also see in here things like last use time, right? Which is if you're doing get WMI object, it returns all the dates in like a WMI date format where you can see like there's the year, there's the month, there's the day, like hours, minutes, seconds, and like ticks or something like that. And I think this is like a time zone offset. So it's not in a format that PowerShell is familiar with, if you will. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of like using, instead of get WMI object, I like using get sim instance. So let me kind of scroll back down to the bottom here and just kind of rerun this query. And there's a lot of info there. Using get sim instance. Right, like so. And what that does is it cleans up this last use time to now being a PowerShell like date time object. So if I kind of pipe that over to get member, I could see that that last use time, and it is kind of being seen as a date time object, which is what PowerShell can work with. Okay, because ultimately, like, why does that matter? Well, I don't want to find all profiles like forever here. I just want to find, let's say, the ones that are the most recent, maybe ones that have been logged in like the last 5 days or something. Right, so that's kind of where I'm targeting this at. So somebody had a profile they logged in with and haven't used it in 3 months. I don't really care to find the drive mappings that they had. At least that's just my intent. So when you guys are building this on your own, you can kind of decide if you want to put this in there or not. All right. So I need the local path. That'll find the usernames ultimately, and I was going to kind of filter on last use time and if it was special. So special basically means is it like a system account or not? Because those technically log into the computer as well and might have a profile. So I don't really want to query any of those. Right? So that kind of sets up for like a filter that we could use here. Okay, where so let's say first of all, if I wanted to store a date, so maybe like we'll store in a variable here. We'll take the result of doing get date and we'll use the add days method and maybe push it 5 days in the past. Okay, so if I look at $date, you can see the current date and time that this was 5 days ago. So it's August 5th right now as I'm recording this video. All right, so now we could use we could rerun that get sim instance query and then maybe throw that to like a filter. So let's say if I wanted to do something like where object, I'm going to need to do an advanced filter here. So I'll use the filter script parameter. And maybe we'll grab the current objects in the pipeline. So that would be $_ dot. And maybe we'll do last use time, which was, again, one of our properties. And let's say that's greater than whatever my date was that I put in $date. All right, and then so that should neck down the query a bit. Hard to tell if it actually did, so let's maybe send this over to select object, and we'll say property local path. Okay, so that's everybody who's logged in the last, let's say, 5 days. Right? Um, if I wanted to get rid of that filter, we could maybe see who else was on here, just to prove that filter is actually doing something. All right. So maybe we'll do something like that, and you can see that there's a few more users. So like user one right here, Kathy, Aiden. So those folk are separate demo accounts that I've used for past videos and whatnot. So they're not showing up in the have logged in this computer in the last 5 days. All right. So that's cool. So we got that. And I have these system accounts, and that's where that special property would come into play. Okay, so on these they have so all of these accounts they have a special property, like literally the property is called special, and it's set to true or false. So these ones are set to true, these ones are set to false. So that's what I want, is I want the ones whose special property is set to false. Okay. So I could bring this in here, and we'll go add another one on here. So dollar underscore dot special um, equals and then false. So and there we go. So that cuts out the system accounts there. All right. Now, last thing is I need to work this stuff here so that I can get just the names of the users, right? I don't want the rest of this. So that's going to be the job of a regex query, regular expressions, which find patterns in data. Because if I look at this, if I pipe this to get member, you could see local path is just a string. So what I want to do is I want to cut off the string. I want to remove up to this last backslash here. And then I just want to keep that part. So I want to get rid of this. And it seems fairly consistent, right? They all have the exact same beginning part to them, right? So what I could do is, first of all, we're not going to do select object. I want literally just the raw strings. I don't want any of the sim instance object left. So that means I'm going to enumerate it. So I could do that by using for each object. And let's grab the process. So again, I'm doing kind of the advanced syntax for each object. And then we'll grab dollar underscore dot local path, which will again just grab the raw strings, which is what I wanted. So notice the difference from the output from when I selected, it had the column header there and then the string. So that was all part of the sim instance object. So by doing for each object, you're literally just grabbing the strings out of whatever object was in the pipeline. All right. And then now inside of that script block here with process, we also are going to use the replace um, operator. And what I want to do, replace will take, um, actually you can do pretty easy with it. You can just do C colon backslash users backslash and don't replace it with anything. Right. So if I kind of run to that, um, let's see. I think I have to double those as they're seen as special characters. There we go. All right. So, so yeah. So in regex, um, if you have a backslash, that's a special character to regex. So if you want to make it see a backslash, you have to just double it. So that'll let you know that the character that comes after it is the character you're after. So I'm replacing C colon users backslash with nothing. So kind of replace, you could replace it with something. So if I wanted to replace it with, I don't know, ABC, notice how it just tacks ABC onto the front there. So if you don't give it anything, it just removes whatever it is you want to remove. And so there I have my raw usernames. Right? So I could do something like that. Right? You could also use regex. So maybe I'll do that in the script. Right? So instead of ccolon users, I'll come up with a regex query that would identify the beginning of the string and remove up to the backslash there. So maybe I'll do that with regex just to show how to do it. But if you didn't, you could just, as long as everybody had the same beginning part on the path, you could just remove it that way. Okay. So now the next part. I need to load the registry hive of each of these users. So right now, if I do who am I'm logged in as this admin user, which is fine. So the registry hive I need is already loaded. It's already loaded as HKey current user. So I would need to load someone else's registry hive and then look into it to see if I could find if there's any entries underneath the network key. All right. So how do I go about doing that? Well, so you can load somebody else's key, provided you have admin rights here. So whoever's going to be running the script is going to need admin rights. Okay, so we can't get around that. Obviously, it's for administrators to use. But you could do a reg load, and let's say we want to load HK users backslash, and then I'll just call this test, just for lack of anything else. And then whose registry hive do I want to load? So I'm going after ccolon users, and let's just pick, I'll pick my mchassis account. So that's the path, right? Um, and then nt user dot dat, let's say. All right? So we can load that. Notice it does say operation completed successfully. So that means it gives output. So I might want to null that when I'm putting a script together. But now if I kind of go and let's open up regedit again. Um, so we should see, if I go under HKey users, notice this test, because that's what I did, right? Let me kind of pull this over to the side a bit. I loaded into HK users test this registry hive, which is for the mchassis account. And so if I kind of expand that, expand network, I can see that user had a couple drive mappings. So Z was going to DC1 and Y was going to map. So that's there. So I just need to kind of pull it out from PowerShell or using PowerShell. And remember that in PowerShell, if I do like a get drive, a get PS drive, you'll notice that there are some registry keys that are already, some registry hives, I should say, that are already mapped within PowerShell as drives. So HKey current user, HKey local machine. So I need HKey users, whatever I loaded the registry hive into that key, and then network. So I need that location. So I could just make a new PS drive out of that. And the provider is going to be the registry provider. The name, we could just call it map for short. Root, we're going to go to HKey users. What did I load that as? Test and network. All right, so we load that as a drive. Now notice that gave some output as well, so I might want to make sure that does not show up when I'm making a script. And so now I could do cd map : And if I do a dir, there's my two drive mappings. Dir again is the same as doing typing in get child item. Okay, so we could see there's the mapping um, that we were after. Okay, so now how do I kind of pull this out? What you could do is again just doing the PowerShell here, get child item, and then I can send that over to get item property. And now that enumerates the info that was in. So here's the key. Here were the values in that key over here, right? So by doing get child item, that grabs each key, and then piping it to get item property, that grabs all the property values out. So you now have a decent object to work with in PowerShell. So I now have an object that has a remote path property, which is the drive map, and a PS child name, which is the actual drive letter. Okay, so that's all the info I need now. And there's an object for each drive mapping returned. Okay, so that would be decent to work with. Okay, so then you're left to clean up after yourself, right? Because you're going to want to kind of be doing a loop here. Load the registry hive of one user, find the drive mappings. When I'm done with that, unload that registry hive and then load another one as you loop through all of the users. So the unloading, working on this kind of as an experiment before I ever thought about recording this video, did discover an issue with that. So first of all, let me change my directory back to C drive so that I can then get rid of that drive mapping. All right. So we're going to do a remove PS drive, and the name of the drive was what? Map, I think I called it. So yeah, so now that PS drive is gone, and then here's the part where it might error. So if I do a reg unload, it was HKU for HK users backslash test was what I had did. So I loaded it into the test hive or test key. So I do that, and you might get an access is denied. So what's happening, and from all the research that I've done, what I think is going on here is when you do a get child item into the the PS drive, that opens up a file handler pointing to that spot in the registry. And when you try to unload the hive, that file handler is still there. It's still taking up memory. And so that's where the access is denied. It's almost like if you're trying to delete a file that's open or something, something like that. So in in .NET, and the solution I'd found, it wasn't my solution, I just found this by researching out on the internet. There is in .NET a garbage collector service that reclaims unused memory, and you can actually launch it from within a PowerShell session. So it's in the system namespace, and it's the GC class. And on the GC class, it has oh god, the name of the methods, a collect method. There we go. So what I could do is I could type in here the GC class and then call the collect method with an empty argument. So this is how you actually launch a method on a class, okay? Not an instance, but a class. You load the class name in a set of brackets, and then double colon, and then the name of the method, and then any arguments you want to do. And so I go ahead and run to that, and then now if I go do reg unload, oh man, that should have worked. Ah, so that should that should have unloaded the class there. Everything I've done has shown that to be the case. But yeah, so for whatever reason that's not working here. Okay, so what might we want to try next? Um, let's see. Okay, so let's the other thing I think might be happening here is I still have registry editor open here. So that might also be doing a handler. Let me try closing that. Rerun the garbage collection and then unload. And there we go. That's what was doing it. Okay. So yeah, it threw me for a sec there. Okay, so now that's unloaded. And if I were to crack back open regedit, we would see that underneath HKey users, you don't see test here anymore. Okay, so cool. So that gets that done. So that's basically the raw material for what I'm going to be working with here. So I know that was like a half an hour of just doing the setup, right? But again, that's a lot of what scripting could be about. Is you've now walked through the different pieces, and now you know each of the separate pieces, and now it's time to put the script together. Right? So if you don't know each of the core components, it's tough to make a script out of that because you're still left like having to figure something out, if you will. So that's kind of all the raw material. So the last thing is all of these commands, like if I'm doing reg unload and reg load and whatever, none of those run by pointing them at a remote computer. So they have to be run on the device where you want to get the drives from. And so that means I'm going to have to kind of do everything through PowerShell remoting sessions. So I'm going to need an account that has admin rights on the computer in question. I'm going to need PowerShell remoting enabled on that computer. And that's basically what my script is going to look like. Okay, so let me switch over to my other computer here, the one that's kind of acting as the domain controller. And let's put a script together here. So I have Visual Studio Code open, so I figured I'd just um, throw the script together in this and give it a whirl. All right. So let's see here. Maybe we'll do a file, save this. Let's see, C colon, how about data? And we'll call this find mapped drives. All right, we'll save it as that. Okay. So kind of typical again, just building a script out. I'd probably want to start with we're going to be pointing this at a computer, so we'll kind of load up maybe commandlet binding, provide that, then make a parameter block, something like that, and then in here we'll maybe make a parameter. All right, helps if I can type today. So something like that. All right, nothing too crazy. Um, and kind of again, something to get us started here. I am leaving this as pointing at a single computer. You could, once you see the rest of the script I put together, you could very easily make this so you could do multiple computers and change the output and whatnot. It's kind of one of the cool things about. Let me close this down a little bit here. One of the cool things about making your script output objects to the pipeline. You could just easily tack on another object, maybe the computer name that you're connecting to, and then point it to multiple computers. So anyway, so let me capitalize that there to make it look a little fancier. All right. So now um, we need to reach out to that computer. So that's probably going to be like step number one here, right? And I'm going to be running a couple different queries to it, a couple different script blocks to it. So probably would make sense to create a session to it that we can kind of reuse. So maybe like $session equals new PS session. Computer name we're heading out to would be not dollar computer name. And yeah, so let's do that. All right. And then we will utilize that. So let's do an invoke command. The session we're heading out to is $session. And in this case, the script block we're going to let's lay this on multiple lines here because I'm going to be sometimes I don't like the okay. I was going to say is I don't like sometimes the auto helping of Visual Studio Code here. Okay, so let's do that first query where we're doing get sim instance. This will get me my profiles, right? So get sim instance. The class was win32 underscore profile. And we need to do some filtering on this. All right, so let's bring that over to where object. Let's see, we wanted filter script and we wanted, I'm going to need the date at some point. I forgot about that. Okay, so dollar underscore dot, let's say last user time greater than dollar date. I realize I haven't defined dollar date yet. Bear with me. And we'll do an and dollar underscore dot special equals false. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Okay, so now let me take the where here and carriage that down to the next line. Um, and yeah, okay. Um, okay, and then also in here as well, I need the date. Let's do get date dot add days, and I was doing -5. All right. So again, why I put get date in parentheses is so the result of it produces the date time object, and then outside the parentheses, I'm calling the add days method from that date time object. And I'm hard coding a value of 5, but you could potentially make that into a parameter as well if you wanted to. All right. So now that should that should get me a list of users that have profiles that have been active within the last 5 days. So if I kind of save this, and let's maybe, let's see. So down in the console here, let me change directory to C:\data. There's find map drive, so let me go ahead and kind of kick that off. And computer name, client 1. Which was the name of that other computer. Okay. Okay, so let's go over to client one here. And oops. So you guys can't see this. I haven't switched over the view here, but I'm just going over. Actually, let me go ahead and do that. So I'm just going over here, and I'm just going to turn remoting on. Can't remember if this enable PS remoting. Give it a force here. And maybe that's what was doing it. So let me change back over to my other computer here, and let's maybe try that again. Get sim instance invalid class. Okay, well, it's we at least connected. So what did I mess up here? Oh, it's not profile, it's user profile. Ugh, my bad. All right, only batting 1,000 today. Okay, and that got no information coming back. All right, so we're batting 1,000 here, folks. Um, so let's see. So let's see what might be up with that. Okay, so I think I see what's going on here. It's right here. I typed in last user time. It's last use time. So my fingers are kind of failing me here. So let's go ahead and save that. And let's try running this again. And cool. Okay, so that got some results. Okay, so cool. So now we're going to work through those results. Let me put that maybe down onto its own line here. So we're going to do for each object. Let's maybe do process, and we'll say we want dollar underscore dot local path. Oop, that should have been. There you go. Okay, so let's try that. Save that. Down at the bottom here, rerun, and sweet. Okay, so that uh, without even messing with it, that might be good enough for what I want to do here. So let's maybe work with that. So we'll take that information, and at the beginning of invoke command, we'll maybe say we'll maybe call that dollar users. Okay, so we'll capture that information. Right? So then we're now going to utilize that. So that would lead to multiple users. So that's gonna set me up for a for each here. We'll do a for each object. And let's say dollar user and dollar users. Then we're gonna have a script block. And we'll start grabbing some drives. So, and again, we might have more than one result here. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to loop through each user. We're going to save in a variable called dollar drives, whatever the output is from the next batch of commands I'm about to do. So invoke command, session, dollar session, and the script block is going to be rather big here. Okay, so for the script block, that's now going to be loading and unloading the registry hive. All right. So we're going to just start off with a reg load, um, HKU backslash, let's just call it map. Um, and then we wanted to load, let's see, we already have C colon users administrator. So I already have the first part of the path there. So that would be in dollar users. That's what's in dollar user. Um, oh, and I just realized I did a typo up here. Let me fix that. I did for each object instead of for each. So anyway, okay. So let's see. So since this code is running on a remote computer, so again, this script block, everything that's in here is running on the remote computer. Dollar user has been defined on my local computer where the script's running from. So I need that value to be transported into the remote computer through the PowerShell session. So I'll use the dollar using colon user. So that'll get me the first part here, C colon users administrator, and then the rest of the string would be backslash ntuser dot dat. Okay, so that should load that, and remember that does give output. So actually, I'll fix that later. Let's make sure that works first. All right, and then we'll do a new PS drive off of that. The provider, oh come on, PS provider would be the registry provider. The name, maybe we'll call this map as well. And the root would be hkey underscore users backslash map backslash network. Right, is basically where I'm heading here. So let's see, does that look cool? Yep, I think that's good. So then we'll change directory to map. And then we're going to do get. So cd, I should probably just do the script. I should use the proper full PowerShell, commandlet names, not aliases. Set location, and then we'll do get child item and get item property. All right, and then we'll change directory back to C drive. So I could then remove the PS drive. Name was map. We could do our garbage collection. And then ultimately reg unload HKU backslash map. And I think that's everything that I want to do in that remoting session here. All right, so, and then we're loading that in this variable. Actually, no, let's not load that in a variable yet. Let's just do an invoke command out of that to start. Let's see, let's maybe change that. I'm so in a habit of just doing cd when I want to change directories, but it's technically set location. So let's save this and let's try running it. Create a drive in the specified route. The route path does not exist. Let's see. So, I think I see where my typo is. It's right here. HK. I had KH. So it's HK, like H key users. So that's how it should be. So let's save that. Try that again. Man, my fingers aren't cooperating. Okay. I got some more stuff here. Okay, so let's see where we stand with this. So let's start kind of knocking this down a little bit here. So I think some of the red we're getting here. We are getting some results, but we are getting some red as well. So what I want to do is kind of remember that these commands here did provide some output, and I don't necessarily get positive results for each of these because they might not have drive mappings. So I might want to come over here and send these to out null just to kind of clean them up a bit. So that way they're not giving output. And same thing with the reg unload. Do an out null with that. Second thing I want to put in here, and it's not going to be, let me get rid of line 17 here. Um, so I basically, this invoke command, that should be running for each user that was in $users. However, it's not necessarily what I want. Like, so first of all, in my lab environment, I have a user called administrator. And I don't necessarily want that account showing up in the results here. Um, so that might throw, that might throw a bit of an error as well. So I might want to skip past administrator. So I could do something like this, where I could say if, let's say, $user equals, and then the text string that's in $user, which remember would be C:\users \administrator. So let's say I want to skip past that result. So I'll say if, and then in the script block to go with if, we'll just literally put the keyword continue, which basically means like if administrators and user here, we're gonna not do the rest of the script block, go back up to $users, get the next value, put that in $user, and then rerun the script block again. So it's gonna skip past administrator. All right? So let's go ahead and save that. Oh, and also just being a good citizen on the network, after all of this is done, I should probably remove the PS session. Remove. Man, something I don't like about Visual Studio Code is the tab completion is not the same as it is in the ISE. I've used the ISE for 15 years now, and I'm trying to force myself to get familiar with Visual Studio Code, but some things are just a little bit different. So anyway, so let's save that. And so I can see a bit more output. Let's maybe drag this up a little bit. Okay, and let's go ahead and kind of rerun this and see if that cleaned it up a bit. Ooh, looks like it did. Sweet, looks like we got just some good output in here now. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so that's something to work with. Cool, so let's leave that down there. And then in here, for each user. So this grab the drive info, that invoke command. So I'll save that in $drives. So we're capturing that. And then what we're going to do um, is now back into just the for each part here. What we'll do is we'll kind of work through each drive that was returned from drives. So let's say $drive and $drives. And then we'll have a script block for that. Let's say we'll build out a property table. Because again, the whole goal here was we're outputting objects. So maybe user equals dollar user. Next thing in the hash table, how about name our property maybe UNC, and that was in $drive dot remote path, and then let's do one more. Letter equals $drive dot ps child name. I think that's what it is. Remote path and ps child name. Let's go verify that though. So let's go look. So remote path, that's cool, and ps child name right there. Okay, cool. So we got them. So that makes the property table, and then we'll do a new object. Type name ps object, and property $props. Cool. So that'll kick out an object for each drive that was in all of the drives for that user, and we're getting that result for each user in users. All right. So that should work fine there, provided again I don't have any typos. Typos are killers. Okay, so let's go try that again. And sweet. So there we go. So there's my final output. So we could see there's Y, Z, Y, Z, M, Z. So I got a lot of that. And we could see the actual drive mappings that are happening here. So map 1, data, map 2, map 1, data, map 1. I don't have a lot of map drives or a lot of file servers in my lab environment here, but so that, produces all of the profiles that have been logged in with the last 5 days and the drive mappings that are in each of them if they have any. So administrator, I skip past. And I think I have another user, John Smith, I think in my lab environment, and he doesn't have any map drives. So again, didn't show up in the output here. All right. So, um, so yeah, so that's fine. Now, probably one last thing we might want to do here is like, let's say if somebody points this at a computer that couldn't be contacted. So client 2 in my environment, there is a client 2, I just don't have it powered on at the moment. And so it's trying to find it. And I want to see what type. Oh yeah, that's not fun. So that's a lot of red, right? And so if I want to maybe take control of that, like if somebody feeds a computer that's not online or remoting isn't enabled on it, maybe I don't want all of this red thinking it's like a script error, right? So what I could do is like up here where I'm doing the session, this is where that error is going to happen. So what I might want to do is maybe wrap that inside of like a try catch construct. Oops. All right, put put that in a try, and then catch, and then with catch, you can supply pretty much whatever you want to have happen. So this part here would be the part that's producing the error. And I'll kind of force it by using error action stop. That'll make it be a terminating error, which is what you need to activate the catch block. So the way, if you're not familiar with the try catch construct, if anything in the try, any code in the try script block here produces a terminating error, instead of showing the error message, the catch block would activate. It would run whatever code you have in catch. And if the try block does not produce a terminating error, catch never runs. So maybe in catch, I'll do something like write output, or not write output, let's not put it to the pipeline, let's just do write host. Okay, let's do something like that as the first line. And then the second line, I'll just type exit to exit the script. All right, so when you type exit and you're in a script, that'll exit you back out to the console. Um, and so that way, none of the rest of this stuff tries to run. All right, so that could be something we could put in here, and let's maybe validate that that works. So first of all, let's feed a good computer name to it. Still get the same output. That's nice. And then try a bad computer name, and then see if we kind of cleaned that up a little bit. And again, just having to wait for it to time out on trying to find that computer to create a new PS session to it. And cool, perfect. So there is an error connecting to client 2. So you could go further into this and in the catch block, maybe figure out what error was produced by looking at the $error variable, something like that. So you could put a bit more into that, but I'll kind of leave that for another time here. I'm already at the hour mark in this video. So anyway, so that was, that's probably the last thing I'll put in here. And we'll kind of consider this script to be finished here. All right, so there's kind of everything. There's the beginning there. Let me scroll down so you can see the end part right there. So that's all on video. So just pause the video. There was again the end part, and then back up to the beginning part. All right. So again, I'll have a link to this as well in the details on the video. So if you want to download it, you can do that. And any questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments. If you like this, give me a like. Greatly appreciate a subscribe as I try to build up my channel here. Both definitely help. So I hope you enjoy that, and we'll catch it in the next video. So have a good one, everyone.